come on the air with breaking news about an extraordinary behind-the-scenes standoff with consequences for the future of the rule of law in this country, literally on the line. It's happening right now in the wake of an extraordinary demand by the Trump administration to drop criminal charges against New York's current mayor, Eric Adams, in exchange for his cooperation with mass deportations. The acting U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York has resigned this afternoon. It comes 3 days after that directive had come down from acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Boebe. She had supported the case that had been charged and brought against Eric Adams, which at this hour remains in place. In a, I hate to use the word again, but extraordinary memo from Deputy AG Emil Boebe that's been obtained by NBC News, responding to the Southern District of New York's refusal to drop this case against Adams. Boebe writes to Danielle Sassoon, quote, "You indicated that the prosecution team is aware of your communications with the Justice Department, that it is supportive of your approach and is unwilling to comply with the order to dismiss this case. Accordingly, the assistant U.S. attorneys principally responsible for this case are being placed on off-duty administrative leave pending investigations by the Office of the Attorney General and the Office of Professional Responsibility, both of which will also evaluate your conduct." Sources tell NBC News that the case has been reassigned to the Justice Department's Public Integrity Section. And that happened when the officials at SDNY refused to drop the case against Eric Adams because they believed in the strength of the evidence. But when it got there, Trump officials were met with more resistance. The acting head of the Public Integrity Section also did the same thing that SDNY did and refused to dismiss this very strong, seemingly open and shut corruption and bribery case against Eric Adams, and also resigned. All this happened today, and it happened after Attorney General Pam Bondi was asked why the case remained in place, even after her deputy, Boebe, demanded it be dismissed. Here's what she said.
That case should be dropped. It was done at the directive of Emil, so that case should be dropped. I did not know that it had not been dropped yet, but I will certainly look into that.
I did not know there were people still standing up for the rule of law in America, said Pam Bondi yesterday. Now, the turmoil now inside SDNY comes with excruciatingly high stakes for the entire country, but especially for the justice system, the federal justice system. New York Times puts it like this, quote, "The Southern District of New York has long been viewed as the nation's most prestigious U.S. Attorney's office, handling complex and often high-profile cases involving Wall Street, national security, and public corruption. Although the office is part of the Justice Department, there are 93 U.S. attorneys' offices around the country, and the Southern District has a reputation for guarding its independence and fending off interference from Washington, winning it the nickname the Sovereign District. And for those inside SDNY and DOJ, and for anyone facing the Trump administration's demand to dismiss the Adams case, the merits of which have not been criticized by anyone, not even the new Trump appointees. Here's how friend of the show and former SDNY prosecutor David Kelly describes the decision they now face on the show yesterday. If you brought the case, you believe the case is righteous, and you go along with something that's clearly a political patronage, what are you a part of?
Well, you're part of an institution that's been tainted. And the question is, can I continue in my service?
That is someone who whose words carry a lot of weight in that office, and that was just 24 hours ago. The news breaking in the last hour is where we start today. Joining us, former Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Mimi Rocah. She ran SDNY's criminal division. Also joining us, MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissmann, who is a former top official at the Department of Justice. With me at the table for the whole hour, my dear friend and colleague, host of All In here on MSNBC, Chris Hayes. He's here because he wrote a tremendously important new book, and we are going to get to it, but we're going to steal his brilliant brain for this conversation, too. The book is called The Siren's Call, How Attention Became the World's Most Endangered Resource. Mimi, I start with you because I know you've been on the phone today with folks inside that office. What's happening right now?
Nicole, what I'm hearing is, there's just been this sort of explosion of tension, if you will, that's been built up over the past few days. Obviously, when the directive came from DOJ, to dismiss the case, and hours and then days went by and it didn't happen. It was pretty clear that there was resistance to that directive coming from within the office. I just have to say, I know you've said this already, but I just want to reiterate it. I mean, my phone is just blowing up with alumni, not just from SDNY, but from all over DOJ, who are so proud of Danielle Sassoon, the courage that it takes to do this with this administration and what she's going to be put through now. And I don't know her decision-making process or exactly how she got here, but I am not surprised because she has always been a person of integrity. And it just makes me beyond proud to see that office, because she didn't make this decision alone. I am sure, as we've been seeing in the reporting and even in Beauvais' letter, that the line prosecutors who have this case, support this, and the people in the office, she must have tremendous support from them. And it's just a really, really hard time there right now, but we're going to get through it. And by we, I mean all DOJ alumni and current prosecutors, because this shows that our commitment to the rule of law and integrity is stronger than the Trump administration's bullying.
I want to do three things. I mean, we're going to come on the air with news that is really dark and really bleak, and we're going to try to sort of calmly sift through it with the best people we have at our disposal, and that's who we have here today. I want to just back up a little bit and share a couple of things that have come across our desk in the last hour. And Chris, I'm going to have you help me do this. One is the story itself. So here's the story. This is the Times lead on the story. Manhattan's U.S. attorney on Thursday resigned days after she was ordered to drop the corruption case against New York City's mayor. Then, when Justice Department officials sought to transfer the case to Maine DOJ, to the Public Integrity Section, which oversees corruption cases, the two men who led that unit also resigned. According to 5 people with knowledge of the matter, the resignations represent the most high-profile public resistance so far to Trump's tightening control over the Justice Department. Danielle Sassoon, not that anyone in the department has a political sort of brand or character, but she is from a conservative. She got to the Justice Department through a very conservative pathway.
Yes, and I mean, take a step back for just a second here. This letter by Emil Beauvais, which I have to say is a wild document. I mean,
wild. We will read the whole thing while we're on the air.
It has a kind of unhinged quality to it. Like, you can hear him like banging the keyboard as he writes. How dare you? Basically, how dare you? The theory of the case here is that the Biden Justice Department was weaponized against its political enemies. The Biden Justice Department, whose U.S. attorneys prosecuted a senior Democrat from New Jersey and convicted him, and the Democratic mayor of the biggest city in America. This is the theory of weaponization, with this tortured nonsense about it had to do with somehow...
And the president's son.
And the president's son, right? This is the weaponized department. The letter that Beauvais wrote to Sassoon to dismiss the case was such a shameful document. I asked Christy Greenberg on my show, I said, is there an attorney general in the last 50 years who put their name on this document? She's like, I really don't think there was. And I didn't know if I was being hyperbolic, but the actions today from Sassoon, her deputies, and the folks at Maine Justice show that that document itself, which essentially said, even though it said in a footnote, there is no corrupt quid pro quo bargain here, was the expression of a corrupt quid pro quo bargain. We are seeing now that anyone with any sense and integrity understands this for exactly what it was.
Andrew Weissmann, take us through how you see today's events as they've unfolded so far. We should tell our viewers we have crews heading down there now to see to sort of bring us live reporting about what's happening there as we speak.
So I don't want to be hyperbolic, but I do want to make sure people understand this is a sort of preeminent test of the rule of law in this country. It does not happen that career people resign over orders that they are given when those orders are even remotely justifiable, to Chris's point. It simply does not happen. The only time that I can think of something like this happening, where you see career people pushing back, are in Trump 1.0, where when people like Jonathan Kravis resigned over instructions coming from Bill Barr, you saw resignations that were front page news. And now you're seeing it within the first few weeks of Trump 2.0. It is extraordinary. The only other time I can think of in history that you have seen this is during the Saturday Night Massacre, when Nixon ordered the firing of the special counsel looking into his and his conspirators' conduct, and people pushed back and refused. The other thing I think it's important to do is, this is not a story about Danielle Sassoon. I completely agree with Mimi that this takes an iron backbone and a real commitment to the rule of law, and she has shown that. But as you said, Nicole, it is true of her deputies, of the people in the public integrity section at Main Justice. And then let's not forget that all of this started with the FBI pushing back on an equally bogus memo and directive from Emile Beauvais asking to round up thousands of people at the FBI who Emile Beauvais said were appropriately characterized as participating in a grave national injustice. And what was that grave national injustice? It was investigating the January 6th case. So it's really important to note that what you're seeing is an enormous pushback of career people at the Bureau and the attorneys at Main Justice saying, we adhere to the rule of law. So this really is a crisis